In my adult life, I have not once used the Pythagorean theorem, but every day I talk to people and I've realized that that's the most important skill, and school never taught us that. We were so busy learning all this useless information, but they didn't teach you like any of the foundational skills like talking to people. And I've realized it's the most important skill because if you had the ability to work with everyone in the world, then you would automatically get all the skills in the world, right? Because you'd be able to work with every single person. Because even if you have a really high value skill, like let's say coding, the person who has the ability to lead 100 really skilled coders will beat you. So it's the most important skill in business for competition purposes, but it's also the most important skill for your physical health. Like there are certain studies, let's say like the number one lifestyle factor outside of like sleep for your physical health is your relationships. What do you think is worse for your health? Smoking 15 cigarettes a day or being lonely. They actually can be equally as bad for your physical health. Chronic loneliness impacts your immune system. It increases your chance of high blood pressure, increases your chance of heart disease. For your physical health, it makes it so much worse. Not even to mention your mental health, but just like so dependent on your relationships. And if you have the ability to meet new people and like really make them feel good about themselves and help them with their goals and they'll help you with yours, then you can raise your standards for what kind of friends and relationships you want. I remember when I was younger, I would keep people around who weren't necessarily supportive or worse, like actively rooting against me. Like I was very introverted, and some of my friends would say, like, oh, Prav doesn't talk. It's like, yeah, that's a really nice thing to say about your friend, right? And then also, like, some of my other friends, like, they were straight up racist to me, and I'd be like, oh, well, these are my friends. But I think part of that was like, I didn't have the ability to like really make that many new friends. But if you have the ability to meet new people and you're like, no, I can make new friends anywhere, or I can find a potential relationship partner anywhere, then you won't settle for relationships and friendships that are not supportive to you. So if you have the ability, even if you're an introvert, to just attract new people to you as friends, relationships, whatever, then the people around you are more supportive. They're more beneficial for your life and like the life you want to live, and you'll get closer to who you want to be. Because it's really hard to do things alone, right? But if you have so much support in your life and if you have like such great friends and such a great relationship, then like life becomes a lot easier and just like, a lot better. And I think that's such an underrated part of like effective social skills. And then I briefly mentioned it, but like the mental health impacts can't be understated. Like so much of our sanity is dependent on other people because it's outsourced. There's this quote that like man is not an island, right? You can't do everything by yourself. You need other people to accomplish the things you want to do, to just like live a happy life. That's the most important part of life is relationships. You'll look back at your life and be like, man, I am so glad that I had these people in my life. You're not going to look back at your life and be like, man, I'm so glad that I spent 10 hours playing Call of Duty. Like, you're not going to look back at that. You're going to be like, oh, wow, these relationships that I had were like so amazing. And the way to do that is by developing them, by like focusing on the skill of it. Even if you are someone who's like, oh, I don't care about relationships, I care about my job. Relationships are what get you like the better jobs. There's this study that like the people who are in not necessarily your very close network, but your outer network, so kind of like acquaintances, they're the ones who are way more likely to set you up with a job opportunity than people in your close circle. Just by like getting to know people around you, you'll have more and better job opportunities. And also like focusing on your social skills, it develops your personal confidence too. Because if you have the mindset like, okay, I could go into a room anywhere and make friends with the people around me and like get to know people, then you just walk around with a little bit more confidence, and that comes out in your day-to-day life. Like it comes out in your work, it comes out in your workout, and then if you feel a little bit better about yourself, you start to make better decisions. You're less likely to scroll on social media all day. You're more likely to like put in the work to do something that you're passionate about. Maybe it's recording videos. And lastly, like conflict resolutions. Like if you have really effective social skills, then you'll be able to manage conflicts in a way that's better than someone who doesn't have those social skills. People who get into like really huge fights in their relationships, they haven't developed the skills in like learning how to resolve the conflict. Like the best way to resolve a conflict is to make the argument for the other person, like help them, not necessarily to win an argument. You don't want to go into an argument like trying to win. Getting a little bit off topic, but like just know that like developing effective social skills will help you resolve conflicts too. Like at work, your relationships, your friendships, it'll make things a lot easier. Okay, so here's 3 quick things you can do today to improve your social skills, which will ultimately just improve your life in general. So the first is to learn how to talk to new people, and I could show you how to do that. What you could use is my chat framework. The C is to comment on what's around you. The H is to highlight something about yourself. The A is to assess if the other person's interested. And the T is to toss it back to the other person by asking a question. Don't toss it back on the other person. I'm saying toss it back to the other person. That was a bad joke. Anyway, okay, so let's say you're at a coffee shop. You could be like, oh, wow, I heard this place has the best cold brew, right? So you like commented on something around you. It's relevant to the moment. It's showing that you're actually like paying attention, which is very important in terms of like starting a natural conversation. It's just being attentive to what's going on around you. The H, you would highlight something about yourself. So you could be like, I usually make coffee at home, but like I wanted to try out this coffee shop today. So it's something honest. And obviously here, don't lie. It's very important not to lie here because people will figure it out. Like people will figure out if you're lying, or they'll kind of like have a gut instinct that you're lying. So it's very important not to lie. One, for the purposes of like them figuring it out. Two, that you don't create the habit of it. Because if you create the habit of lying, it's not a good place to be, because a lot of times you have to ask yourself questions to make decisions in your life. And if your gut instinct is messed up with lies, then you might make a decision based on a lie rather than based on something that's honest. So very important, don't lie. So once you highlight something about yourself, you assess if the other person's interested, and you could kind of read their body language or their response. Let's say they put their headphones in. That probably means they don't want to talk to you. Completely okay. Or maybe they like kind of like just nod their head and like go back to their work. They probably don't want to talk to you. But if they like open up and they're like, "Oh my God, yeah, I love this coffee shop," then they definitely want to talk to you. So then you move on to T, which is you toss it back to the other person by asking a question. So in this case, you could be like, "Oh, what's your go-to order here?" So this way you started a natural conversation. You told them something about yourself. You determined if they're interested in talking to you, and then you ended on a question. So it's like it's still open-ended. You'll learn something about them. So they know something about you, you'll learn something about them, and then you can keep the conversation going from there and just get to know them. So that's how you start a conversation. So that's the first thing you could do today, right? So the first step is to practice this anywhere. Like you could do this at the coffee shop, grocery store, whatever. And then just over time, like continually practice this and develop it as a skill. The second thing is to sign up for a new hobby. A lot of people, they have some sort of hobby that they have in the back of their mind that they haven't signed up for yet. So maybe it's like a run club or like pickleball or an acting class, a cooking class, could be anything, right? Just sign up for the hobby. And then from there, use that chat framework. Then you'll be able to meet so many new people that it'll be really beneficial to your social life. And the third thing you could do today is to journal if the people around you are really supportive, because our identities, a lot of it is dependent on like the people we have around us. And if people are not supporting you and like the things you want to do, like if you put yourself out there, let's say you started making videos, right? Would the people around you be supportive? That's a pretty good barrier for like people you want to have in your life. And like that's what I used before I started making videos or doing stand-up comedy. I was like, are any of these people really going to support me? And then the people who I was like, oh, I don't think they would, I just kind of stopped talking to them, which may be harsh, but it's like if you want to accomplish things, you want to improve as a person, you can't have people in your life that are holding you back from doing that. You have to really ask yourself, like, are these people supporting who I want to be? I really hope you found this video useful. If you're having trouble developing your social skills, meeting new people, anything like that, I have a free first coaching session with the Calendly link in the description. And listen, I'm not saying that any of this is going to be easy, but I am saying it's going to be worth it. Life's not easy, but it's worth it. Take care.